First, I'd like to make clear that what I'm about to say is 100% true. I am not making this stuff up. I don't have any explanations and I don't believe in God. I just want to share my experiences and see if anyone else has been through anything similar. And if so, I would like to hear it. The curiosity burns me, yet the scientist inside of me has debunked all, even my own bizarre experiences. I just put them down to imagination, but I will let you decide. Anyway, here goes. The first thing I experienced was when I was around 3 years old, and so have no recollection of it. The story was only told to me when I was around 9 or 10 years old and was presented to me as fact. The story goes, we had recently moved into a new house. My mom, 2 bros, and my sister, and they had all gone off to school, leaving infant me and my mom alone. Anyway, I am upstairs doing whatever boys do at 3 years old, and she's downstairs doing whatever moms do. So, after an hour, the story goes, I come down and ask, "Who's the lady laying on your bed, Mom?" I then go on to describe a lovely conversation that I had with some mystery woman who was apparently laying on my mother's bed, and then went on to give a vague description of this nice woman, ginger hair, walking stick. I even had a name, Jenny. So, my mother goes to check. Nothing, and rightly puts it down to the imagination of a child and ignored it. A few weeks later, after we'd started meeting neighbors and getting settled in, when she got into a conversation with a neighbor named Val. Val mentioned that her mother had lived at our house for many years and had gone off to a nursing home because of ill health. She had died in the nursing home a few weeks before we moved in. She had ginger hair and a walking stick. Her nickname was Ginny. That was the start of Ginny. I swear down this is true. I'm just trying my hardest to write this clearly and present it in a way that everyone will understand. Thank you for the compliment though. Okay, a few years later, I remember the event, but I'm not sure how old I was. I'm guessing 5 to 6 years old. It's evening time, around 8 p.m. I guess, and I am sitting/playing in the living room with my mom who is watching TV. My bros and sister are upstairs, along with about 5 or 6 friends. I can hear them upstairs playing music and chatting, when suddenly the music stops, followed by the heavy footsteps of my brother's friends coming down the stairs and swiftly out of the front door. My sister is crying in the background and my mom is looking annoyed at the fuss. My brothers come in the living room and are quickly quizzed by my mom, to which they both look at each other, puzzled. Apparently, in front of around 8 people, a catalog had risen from the floor near my brother's bedroom door, flew across the room, and hit my sister clean in the face. Everyone was in agreement to the events, even my crying sister, and from that point, the house got a reputation. OP here again. The house usually creaked and groaned, and as a kid, I hated going for a piss at night, but apart from that, nothing much happened until I was around 8 years old. I was playing hide and seek with a friend, Steven, and my sister. We'd probably been playing for around 20 minutes, when it was sister's turn to find us. So, I hide under the bed, and he hides in an old wardrobe. The wardrobe had a keyhole lock, and probably once had a key, but the key had been lost long ago, so the wardrobe always remained ajar. I am under the bed waiting, and my sister shouts, "Found you," to Steven, obviously hearing him in the wardrobe. I can hear him rummaging around in the wardrobe, and then begin to play with my sister to let him out. I come out from under the bed and proceed to the wardrobe. My sister is standing there clueless, and the wardrobe is locked, no mistake. My sister and I panicked for a moment because he started getting really worked up, pleading for us to open the door. The door suddenly creaks open, and he falls out of the wardrobe, blaming us both for locking him in. My sister is now 37 years old and swears blind she never locked the wardrobe. I know I never. It could only be locked from the outside, and there was no key. That's the truth. I have no explanation. There is a lot more shit that's happened. I am just going chronologically. OP again. Last one, and then I'm going. This was roughly the same year, so I'm around 8 to 9 years old. I had been out playing whatever with a friend called Lee, and we were arriving at my house. We walk in, and he heads up the stairs towards my room. I glance in the living room to see an empty house, then follow him up the stairs. I just got up to the top of the stairs when I hear him shout, "Ugh, What the fuck was that? Not in a scared of monsters tone, but more of a fear of OMG spiders tone. I turn the corner and hear him again. Ugh. But it sounds more urgent this time. Suddenly, he bolts past me to the top of the staircase, apparently scared shitless. He then misses the first step, slips, and goes down the full staircase on his ass, hitting the bottom with a thump. I race down the stairs, asking what's the matter, just in time for him to get on his feet. He looks straight into the living room, screams, and then runs out of the front door, straight into the road, narrowly avoiding being run over by a car. His father hears this commotion from across the street and comes over, asking him what occurred. He mumbled something to his dad, then went in the house. I later knocked on Lee's door and was told I'm not allowed to play with you anymore, and he never did again. From that point on, friends were really wary of coming into my house. I'd just like to add, Ginny never harmed me and I never felt threatened. I thought of her as a protector, and my sister would joke, yeah, she likes you. Apart from the book hitting my sister thing, nobody was harmed. People saw and experienced many things in that house, and I'm just glad to share some of it. OP again, I would just like to add, I don't believe scientifically that Ginny existed. I believe in physics, I believe in science, I hate religion and the popular perception of ghosts. Yet what I've seen, heard, and felt, to me, had no scientific explanation. Hence, the thread. I like to learn and applaud any explanation that is offered. OP back. Can't believe this thread did not die. May as well carry on where I left off. So, it's around the same year, so I am 8 to 9 years old. My sister, 14 to 15 at the time, and I had been out babysitting for a neighbor and were returning home around 11 p.m. We were both tired, but in a jovial mood. The house was empty, nothing unusual, so my sister makes us some supper and we settle down in front of the TV. After a slice of toast and a cup of tea, she says to me, okay, bedtime. So, begrudgingly but tired, I agree and get up and make my way to the bottom of the staircase. It was then that I look up the stairs, and suddenly, it just hits me. I can't really describe what it was, other than just being a feeling of absolute pure dread. It was terrifying. I was frozen to the spot, and I have never been so scared in my life. There was something up there, that I am certain of. I could feel it. And no matter what happened that night, I was not going up those stairs. I remember being confused at the time by this feeling. It had just suddenly hit me like a wave, and I was shaking, crying, acting like a lunatic, screaming, there is something up there. I remember it clearly. I was freaking out, and my sister eventually subdued me, and I just remember waking up on the sofa the next day with my sister. This was totally out of character for me. I love my sister, and although we'd have our differences, I would never have put her through an ordeal like that on purpose, nor was I easily scared. As I said before, I'd always thought of this ghost as being kind to me and had no fear of the house. It had never happened before and didn't ever happen again. My sister asked the next day what all that was about, and all I could say was, there was something evil up those stairs. Later that year, we had a fire in the house. A bedside lamp had fallen over and had set a duvet alight. Firemen were called at God knows what time a.m., and I stood outside in my pants with my mom and siblings watching the small blaze being tackled. The cause was never explained, though it was obvious the cause was that a lamp had set a duvet alight. Anyway, fires happen, so we will ignore that. Anyway, a few weeks later, we go on a caravan holiday for 2 weeks. We had no idea what we were about to come home to. We arrive home, and it was immediately obvious that the front main window had been smashed. We enter the home to find it a shambles. Food packets strewn around the floor, beer cans, etc., talcum powder and flour all over the floor. We had been burgled. By kids by the looks of it, and it looked like they'd had a pretty good time making a mess before they left. Anyway, nothing was stolen, because my mom had cleverly left any valuables with neighbors and friends, but the house was a mess. Actually, my BMX was stolen. I'd only had it around 2 weeks, so I usually forget I ever had it. A neighbor confirmed a few nights ago they heard the sound of breaking glass. Then, hours later, it seems they returned to have an impromptu party at my house. Neighbors had heard the noise, but did not know the source until the next day. Anyway, the neighbor asks, "Did you have somebody looking after the house for a few days?" Apparently, the day after we left for the caravan holiday, neighbors had noticed a figure standing, looking out of the windows during the day. At night, they reported seeing a silhouette through the curtains, again, apparently keeping watch. We never found an explanation, and soon after, we moved house. I loved that house. It will always be my true home, and I would move back there tomorrow, but I swear on my life, my kids' lives, and my family's lives, and they would agree, that that house was haunted. Things did not stop there though, lol. We moved to London, and after a year or two moving around from home to home, we settled in a house in Rains Park near Wimbledon. It was a lovely area, full of trees and open grassland. We bought a dog, Bonnie the Staff, and Sis and I used to take her for long walks on Wimbledon Common. So everything was good. Things were looking up, and the old house was forgotten about. Anyway, one night I'm laying in bed, and I can hear the dog walking around my bed. I can hear and feel its footsteps as it's walking around the bed, and its nails clicking on the carpet. Then, it dives under the bed and is making a commotion. I can feel it pushing the mattress up from under me. So I say, "Oi, Bonnie, what you doing? Come on, get up on the bed," to which there is no response. So again, I call out, "Come on the bed." Still no response. So, being annoyed, I throw the blanket off and get up and switch the light on. I get on my knees and look under the bed. "Bonnie." She's not there. I call out "Bonnie" and look around the room. Nothing. So I scratch my head for a second and then go downstairs to see where this damn dog is. Sure enough, she is curled up on the floor, snoring like a baby. "How long's Bonnie been there?" I asked my mom. "She's been here all night," was the response. That was the start of the haunting, part 2. A few weeks later. I am probably 11 or 12 years old at this point. I am in my room doing whatever, and I decide to go for a piss. So I'm in the bathroom having a piss, when I hear my brother behind me whisper through the door, "Beware of the dark." I jump out of my skin, then shout back at him, "Stop messing around, I'm not scared." He would often mess around, so I finish my piss and go looking for him. Nothing. I checked that whole fucking house from top to bottom, expecting him to have found some new awesome hiding place that I had not noticed, but no. The only people at home were me, Alan, my mom's BF, and Bonnie the dog. Alan confirmed that my brother had left the house hours ago. The voice was unmistakable. It was my brother's voice, I'm certain. I now put it down to imagination, as I have with all of my experiences, but it was so real to me that I simply could not be sure. Again, I have no satisfactory explanation and refuse to believe in ghosts. Sorry if the stories are boring. In all cases, I am just giving a true account of what happened and refuse to embellish any details for people's entertainment. That is not why I'm writing this. Also, if anyone has any ideas on these matters or has shared similar experiences, I would love to hear them. LP here again, and I will finish with this one. There's probably 10 or more unexplained events I can recall, but I will just say this then call it a night. Besides, I'm not sure if anyone's even reading this, lol. Skip forward a few years. It's 1996, and I am 15 years old. My siblings and mom all had jobs, and we'd moved to a bigger house in West Norwood, London. Sister was a qualified hairdresser working long hours, and mom was running a chain of charity shops, also working long hours. Anyway, it was either a weekend or school holiday because I had woken up at 10 to 11 a.m. and had nothing to do. Mom had gone to work, but sister had called in sick. She didn't feel right, was her explanation at the time. Anyway, the day passes as normal for me, but I can see my sister is not well. She never looked ill really, more anxious. She was doing a lot of nail biting and saying stuff like, "I've got a bad feeling, something is wrong," etc. But she could not put her finger on what it was. It was mystifying to me at the time, but I later found out why. Around 9 p.m. came, and mom had failed to return home yet. Not unusual. Usually, my sister was just returning home from work at this time, but due to this illness, had spent the day pacing around, looking worried. My sister was getting more anxious by the second, and was at this point almost crying. So I ask, for fuck's sake, what's wrong? Something has happened to Mom, I can feel it. I just brush it off as her being stupid, but she is adamant. I'm gonna go and look for her. So she goes out in the car, looking for Mom. About an hour passes by when sister returns home. Nothing. She tried all their friends' addresses and a local pub that my mom would visit, but nobody had seen her. Sister was looking even more worried now. Something's happened, I can feel it, she kept repeating. Her BF turned up, and they went out again in the car, looking for Mom. About 1 a.m. comes around. I hear the door close, so come out of my room to investigate. My sister is walking up the stairs. I can see her hair is a mess, and there is makeup down her face. I ask, did you find her? She starts crying and tells me what had happened. At around 8 a.m. that morning, shortly after arriving at work, my mom had slipped and banged her head, leaving her unconscious. She had spent the entire day on the floor of the closed shop, unconscious and slipping into a shock-induced coma. Another hour or two, and she would have died. She spent a few days in hospital going through scans, etc., before gladly making a full recovery. My sister cannot explain what happened that day, or how she knew that something bad was going to happen. Was it luck? Intuition? Her explanation was, I just woke up with a feeling. I have no idea, but she was right. Lol, OP here again, lol. One more sticks in my mind, well, two actually. One's kind of a nice story, the other one is not. It's around 2000 and I am 19. I'd moved in with my girlfriend to Battersea and had a beautiful baby daughter. Mom had been diagnosed with cancer a few years before and had died approximately 2 months beforehand. I was not taking it well. I was crying all the time and seeking comfort in my GF and baby to take my mind off of it. Anyway, they had gone off to bed and I am alone with my thoughts. I dropped my head into my lap and started quietly sobbing. I really miss my mom. I'm crying for a minute or two, trying not to make a noise, when I hear my GF walk along the passageway into the front room. She comes into the room and stands right over me, making the floor move. I could feel the heat from her legs and the sound of her clothes. I assumed that she did not know what to say/do, so she just stood there. I continue crying into my lap for a moment, trying to compose myself. Then I dry my eyes and look up. Nothing. There is nobody there. I look around the door, expecting to see her walking away. Nope. I go into the bedroom. She is asleep. Whoever it was, it certainly was not my GF. I'd like to think it was my mom coming to see me, but the scientist in me will not allow it. The second story is not so cheerful. LP again, law. The second story was only a fleeting glimpse, but was definitely real and definitely scared me. It's probably a year or two later, and my daughter was probably 3 years old enough to use the toilet, but still wetting the bed probably once a month or so. It's about 1 a.m. and everyone is in bed. I am sitting on the PlayStation when I hear a noise from behind me. I assume it's either the GF or my daughter going to the toilet, so I turn around to look. If it's my daughter, I would usually offer my assistance with her being so young, and also being prone to the odd bedwetting and also being half asleep. So anyway, I look around to see the silhouette of a little girl in a black and white dress scurry into the bathroom. I assume it's my daughter, even though I thought the clothing was a little out of place. So I offer my assistance. She does not reply, so I wait for a minute, expecting to hear the toilet flush. Nothing, so curious, I get up and go to the bathroom. The light is on in there, so I knock lightly. Hey, you okay, darling? Need a hand? No response. I ask again, a little louder. Still nothing, so I open the door slightly and take a peek inside. Nothing, nobody there. I look in my daughter's room. She is sound asleep, wearing nothing but a vest and underwear. Also, she never had a dress that was even remotely similar. I saw a girl go into the bathroom, I am positive. The door moved when she went in, and the black and white dress was vivid. It was like a party dress, wide at the bottom with horizontal bands of black and white frills on the skirt. It moved and brushed against the door as she ran into the bathroom. I also remember seeing the shape of her hair. although the face was in shadow. I never told this to my then GF because she would have probably freaked out and or thought I was crazy. I think myself as a rational person, but it scared the shit out of me at the time and still does. Lots more, mostly in the old house I grew up in. Little things happen so often that we would just say, it's Ginny again, and forget all about it. We had gotten so used to it. One morning, Mom came down to find tins of food stacked on the kitchen table. There would always be the sound of footsteps in the house at night. I used to sleep in my sister's bed with her basically because we were scared to sleep alone due to the doors opening/closing. Doors would open and close by themselves, or in the case of the wardrobe, lock themselves. Our pet dogs at the time would behave weirdly sometimes, growling at shadows or come running downstairs, apparently in a rush to get away from something. Some things above were only fully explained to me at a later date due to me being the youngest. I will try and remember more for tomorrow. This happened about 6 years ago. My father had died recently, and again, I was not taking this well. It had happened suddenly, and I had not had a chance to say goodbye. He was my best friend, and it was always me and him, partners in crime, so to speak. I was a lot closer to him than I was my mom, and I know I meant everything to him. He loved me completely and worshipped the ground I walked on. He was a great dad. I'd split up with my GF and had moved into a flat near Lewisham, London. I would spend most of the days playing Oblivion on the Xbox and smoking weed to numb the pain, sleeping throughout the day and being a night owl. I did not dream much, probably the weed, and when I did, they were just a mess of meaningless crap lasting seconds. Anyway, I went to sleep one night, then woke up at approximately 5 a.m. Standing in front of me by the bed was my dad. I was shocked, and then I thought, I'm still asleep here, and laughed. And then I asked him, what are you doing here? You're dead. In a kind of light-hearted, comical tone. He just stood there looking at me, as clear as day, looking straight at me, not moving an inch, not blinking. It was almost like it was a cardboard cutout of him, rigid yet real. The detail was exact. I could see his face, wrinkles, skin blemishes, eyes, etc. I was not afraid. It was great to see him, to be honest. Anyway, I look at him for a few seconds and then say, you should not be here, go away. Then I turn over to go back to sleep. I put it down to being some kind of freaky dream. I woke up the next day thinking that was weird, but just put it down to being a vivid dream. Evening time comes around and my phone rings. It's my sister. He was not her biological father, but he loved her like a daughter and they shared that bond. She always says he was the closest thing she ever had to a dad, and I agree. Anyway, she continues, I had a really weird dream last night about your dad. She had had the exact same dream. He was just standing by her bed, looking at her, not saying anything, just there. Again, I would put this down to stress, grief, imagination, whatever, but for the detail, he was so detailed it was lifelike. I'm welling up here, but I've recalled one more I would like to share. Up here. This is the last one. I have texted family members to try and jog my memory a bit, but this is the only one that really stands out to me, so here goes. I'm 18 at the time. Mom had been diagnosed with cancer years earlier, and after several bouts of chemo and a few high points, she had deteriorated. She had 6 months to live. Nurses were there on a daily basis to administer morphine. I think it was morphine, and she was bedridden. Her partner, Dave, had died around 6 to 12 months before, so she was alone. We, bros and sister, were going around every day trying to help Mom through this time, and although we never thought about it, we knew we did not have long left with our mom. I was in total denial and did not realize the full extent of her illness, still hoping she would make a full, miraculous recovery. So, the routine was set. Nurses would come in during the day or whenever called and administer morphine. My sister would help her out with going to the toilet, getting dressed, etc. And me and my bros just kind of took a back seat. We just helped where we could. Anyway, while on the morphine, Mom started mentioning Dave a lot. No surprise with him being her latest partner. But then, things started getting weird. She would talk to him when alone in her room, something we put down to her just being off her face on morphine. But then, she, after a week or so, started complaining to us when not on the morphine. She would say things like, "I wish he would just leave me alone now. He keeps making me jump." My sister, who had spent the most time with Mom at the stage, was telling us what Mom was seeing. She would see Dave walking around the house as normal, or sitting in his chair, or sitting on her bed. At first, she seemed fine, but we could tell these visions of Dave were getting to her. She would shout at him to leave her alone and stop making her jump. My sister was convinced that Mom was seeing Dave, but tried to brush it off as drug-induced hallucinations. I tend to believe it was the hallucinations of a dying woman, heavily sedated on morphine. That's the rational explanation, I think. But who knows? I can't be certain, nor would I doubt my mom's ability to distinguish real from not real. That being said, I have no clue as to the effect of morphine on the brain, or what the stress of knowing she was about to die had on her. The poster above that says, "If you truly love science, you would not refuse to believe in anything at all," has a point. I agree with you, Anon. If believing in God is an act of faith, then surely not believing in God is also an act of faith. That is not very scientific of me, and I concede it is narrow-mindedness on my part. OP, signing off. Thanks for reading, and thanks Axe for keeping this thread alive. I expected nothing in return, yet writing this has had a big effect on me, and I am grateful. All I can say is that everything I have written here is fact, to the point where I am now in tears reading it back. I have never told anyone most of this. I've told people about Ginny before as kind of a conversation piece, but I've never actually written it down or had the time to go into this much detail before. We all live busy lives now, so things like Ginny get forgotten about and laughed at. It's brought back a lot of emotions that I felt at the time, and for the most part, I have welcomed them. Thanks, Anons. I will leave the explanations to you guys, as I really do not have any. Hey, hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment because it lets YouTube know you like the content and helps more people to see these videos. My next big goal for the channel is 100,000 subscribers, and as a celebration, I will be doing a Q&A video once we hit that goal. Thank you, and back to the stories. I have one possibly paranormal experience of my own. It's kind of shit, but lately, I've been thinking about it a lot, so I feel compelled to share it. Bougie friend is celebrating his birthday. Lots of hipsters, theater actors, and art people. I'm anxious and sticking out like a sore thumb, so I get to drinking very quickly and very hard. People keep coming in and out. They all have the same look to them. They're wearing expensive clothes, immaculate hair, etc. I keep seeing this one girl who is worse off than I am. I feel a little bit better about myself. She is just wearing sweatpants and a faded band t-shirt. She needs to dye her hair. Her roots are coming in very hard. I figure she's a drug dealer, since there is coke and weed going around, and she really does not look like she came to party, or like she's with the in crowd. I am completely trashed. She is sitting next to me, telling me that I should stop drinking and go vomit. She keeps insisting that I go to the bathroom and vomit. Yeah, I guess I do feel pretty sick. I go to the bathroom and close the door behind me. As I'm puking, and I see that she is kneeling next to me and has a hand on my shoulder. I don't remember her coming in, but whatever. Get it all out, she says. Some hours pass. I keep drinking. I pass out in a bed. She is lying next to me. Again, I did not notice her come in. She is instructing me to sleep on my side. Fine. I turn away from her. A few days later, I ask a friend about her. I figure I should thank her because she nannied me pretty much all night. He says there was not anyone like that at his party. I figure she's a party crasher that my friend does not know and did not notice. Years later, friend is selling his apartment. He jokingly asks if he should report the death that happened there. What? Before he moved in, a heroin junkie lived there, a young woman. She choked to death on her own vomit while she was high. Apparently, She died in the room I passed out in. TLDR, Ghost might have saved me from meeting the same end that she did.